Good day everybody, thank you for joining me on the channel. In today's content, we will be revisiting the path to 20 cents for Telcoin. Nothing that I say is financial advice. Let's dive into the content. So our last update on Telcoin was actually back here in June, where we have this local low currently sitting at 0.003. Now on this sort of consolidation phase here, I have these three major Fibonacci levels that we need to see hold and broken in order to see the retracement back to the all-time high and then kick the euphoric move into this 1272 fib extension target at 20 cents. I do believe that at the moment we are replicating a very similar sort of price structure to what we did in the past. Now, I really wanted to point out that Telcoin tends to have very impulsive moves later in Q4. So if you look back here on this ascending support line, in fact, we're going to go back to this low of this previous consolidation phase in sort of late Q4 2020. And if we actually get this arrow on here, you will see that Telcoin didn't actually place its macro low in 2020 until December. And January was the month where this really started kicking into gear for Telcoin. And it had this massive impulsive move to the current all-time high and this ascending resistance line. So we've got this major ascending resistance and this macro ascending support. So just keeping an eye on the sort of time frame here, you've got December 2020. Now, if we fast forward all the way over to this local low here, which is the current cycle low, this was placed in December of 2023. Again, if we fast forward a little bit more and come back to the local low of 2024, you will see that it was actually placed, the local low was placed in September, but we didn't actually start getting the major impulsive breakout until November. So just based on these three prior points of contact on this ascending support line, these are the areas where Telcoin in late Q4 decides to have those massive impulsive rallies. Now, if you look at where we are this year in 2025, we're in September. Now, just based off this previous data, on one of the three occasions here in late Q4, the low was actually placed. Where was we looking? Last year, the low was actually placed in September. October, we rolled down. We had a candle close below, but we didn't actually fill in the wick. So we placed a higher low, tapped this ascending support, and then went for this major move, which has led us up to these sort of February highs of 2025. So at the moment, I think that somewhere in Q4, from now in September, depending how September's closes, pushing on to October, November, December is where Telcoin is actually going to bottom out. And I say that just simply based off of the last sort of 3 to 4 years where Q4 has been the month, other than this one occasion in September. So September, this month, does have the opportunity to place the local low. It does have the opportunity. In fact, if we don't retrace any deeper than the June low, June of 2025 may have placed that. But what I'm looking at here, again, in sort of similarities, is we have this major consolidation phase, this red box. And this is very similar to, in the past, a similar sort of move occurred, okay? We came from the ascending support, we had this impulsive wave, and then we had an irregular A, B, C correction back down for a higher low on this ascending support before actually getting this massive euphoric leg. So at the moment, what we could say is, well, we had this wick low here to ascending support in December of 2023. We had this correction back to these higher lows here in October, November 2024. So have we already placed the two higher lows, just like we did in the past? And was this move here in November the kickstart of the real euphoria? Potentially. And this correction could have already been placed. For example, if we actually drag this bars pattern that I have on here and we kind of put it as close and as tight as we can to what it represented in the past, you could say, well, have we already completed this A, B, C correction? Very similar to what we had in the past here, guys. Okay, we had this A, B, C, back down to ascending support, and then the euphoria kicked in. You know, we haven't actually had the touch point on ascending support yet, which I'm going to get into in a second. But at the moment, you can see that this sort of consolidation phase is playing out very beautifully to what it did in the past. The only thing that's actually essentially missing is that retest. And this is where I beg to differ, whether this is the double bottom, which is going to lead to that massive euphoric move, or whether we're actually going to come back for a larger ABC correction back down to this ascending support before actually getting that move later in Q4, pushing into Q1. Again, historically, looking at the data, Q4 is when Telcoin likes to sort of push up, and it normally tops out. If you look at this high here, March 2024, if you look at this high here, this was August of 2020, and that was actually on the build up of this move. But if you look at, we've had March 2024 high, we had a January/February 2025 high. Could we potentially get a January, February, March high in 2026, which is actually bringing us up to this 20 cents? Again, if this move is to replicate, we could say that this period of time is taking a little bit longer than what it has before. It's a bit more of a drawn out process. Then we could still be waiting for sort of October, November before we actually get the push up. And it may just take until later Q4. Now, if we look at sort of consolidation length and duration, and just compare it to this sort of move here, we had this impulsive wave up, and now this lasted roughly around 275 days, where we had the impulsive wave, corrective to a support, and then broke out. 275 days that accumulation or consolidation phase took. If we look at from where we are now, this consolidation phase has taken 304 days. So already this is a bit more of a drawn out process. It does seem a little bit lackluster. It's taking more time before we actually kick into that euphoria. So with that being said, this does look like it has the potential to come back to this ascending support line once more before actually getting the break. It's all about finding the local low in Q4. That's my honest opinion. I think that June 2025, this is the current local low. We had the run up to the 0.50, but we've been pushed back down to the 0.382. So it's all about holding 0.004. If we fail to hold that through September and we do start retracing a little bit deeper, this simply could just be an A, a B, a C, back down to support in late Q4 before actually getting the later breakout into Q1 2026. And what you'd have at that point is you'd have 1, 2, 3 points of contact on this ascending support. Beautiful structure, because look what's happening, guys. Okay, from the ascending support, the current cycle low in December 2023, we had a rally into the 0.382. We then pulled back to ascending support and rallied into the 0.618. Now we've come back to the 0.382 and are trying to hold this previous high as support. You can see the previous high of March 2024 is currently where we're floating around. So it's all about, working in waves. You come up, resistance, pull back to a higher low, run up, another level of resistance, but we got a higher high. As long as we can come back and build a higher low somewhere here, I think that this price action and this structure looks beautiful. We've got higher highs and higher lows building ever since the cycle low in December 2023. So at the moment, this is beautiful price action, what we're seeing here. Okay, and it was similar to what we had in the past. Again, once we actually placed these local lows, the lowest candle closes, this was the low. We had a run up, we came back for a higher low, and then didn't look back. At the moment, we've had a run up, a higher low, we've got a run up, and at the moment, we're trying to find, again, another base low before pushing up to these higher targets. So I think that just, again, primarily based off previous data, between September and December is where the local low for Telcoin will place. We can either trend sideways for a couple of months and then get the break, or I think this again is a larger A, B, C correction back down to ascending support in Q4 before going for the next macro leg up. Now do remember, these are the key levels we need to break in order to, other than the 382, because that's what we're holding as support, the 0.50 and the 0.618 are the key levels of resistance we need to break in order to see the retracement at least back to the all-time high. And then once that's taken out, this is the target, the 1272 fib extension at 20 cents. So the best way that I can explain this, guys, if we do come back for a bit more of a deeper correction, this is nothing but opportunity, especially if you see this ascending support line tapped once more. Failing that, if we do hold the 0.382 here and consolidate without coming back any lower leading into Q4, then this has just been a larger sort of accumulation base waiting to essentially break out. So, there's other things that I wanted to look at as well before we left, before I go here, and this is the 20 and 55 EMAs. If we zoom in to these EMAs, you'll notice that Telcoin has actually printed for the first time in its history a bullish cross. So ever so slightly here, you can see that the yellow line is crossed over the red. This is a monthly bullish cross, a macro bullish signal, and this indicates to me that there is much more to come. Now, you know, resorting back to the 20 EMA here in January, you can see that in the past, Telcoin, once it did get that leg up, it ran into the resistance. Okay, it pushed higher, but the candle close was below. And then it wasn't until February where we actually started getting back above this 20 EMA. Fast forward to where we are now. It took until sort of November 2024 to get back above these EMAs. We had to push till February. And at this point, we ran into that golden ratio. And this is why we've seen a pullback to the EMAs. So what happens is once you actually break through the EMAs and run into resistance, you want to pull back to them for support before looking for the next leg up. So we have that bullish cross. We have the breakout, the retest to the EMAs. Right now, as I said, I think this is either a consolidation phase before a next markup, or potentially we have an ABC. We revert back from the bull cross, look like we're going to create a bear cross or a fake out, get that retracement back to a support in December, and then go for the break. But at the moment, the key support levels, guys, are 0.004/3. As long as Telcoin is above its 20 and 55 EMAs and above this June low, at the moment, then it's safe to say, well, we may not get that deep of a correction. But it's just worth noting that if we do, just look for this ascending support. Okay, it's that simple. A, B, C, ascending support, boom, off we go. Failing that, or if that isn't the case, holding these EMAs for the next couple of months and just sort of going sideways may be the trajectory. And that could then lead into that major breakout in Q4 going into Q1. So the 20 and 55 EMAs, very bullish signal that's been printed here. And it's definitely not one to ignore because they don't come about very often. Now, also, if I look at the stock RSI, I think there's some similarities here that I wanted to look at. So what you'll notice is we had these two highs from April 2024 and sort of February 2025. They were flatlined. Now, if you look at the price, we had higher highs in the price and again, symmetrical highs in the stock RSI. So this means that we were creating some sort of bearish divergence between price action and the stock RSI, which initially led to this rollover, which is what we've seen now from February until current. But what's happened is at this point, as I said, we had the higher highs and symmetrical highs in the stock RSI at overbought levels. Right now, we're below the mean average, and we've created these symmetrical lows with higher lows in the price. So we had a bearish divergence before between price and stock RSI. Now we have a sort of potential. It's relatively weak because there's not a lower low in the stock RSI. They're pretty much symmetrical, but the higher lows in price are there. So we are creating or setting up a base here looking for a next leg up. And we do also have the bullish cross on the stock RSI on the monthly that formed in August. Just like we did back here, this bullish cross in October led to the move up towards our February highs with this major impulsive move. So is this bullish cross saying, okay, well, we're now ready for the next sort of leg up, pushing back towards the all-time high? Potentially. Or what could happen is we could eventually roll over here into later Q4, create a large lower lows in the price, and if we get the ABC rollover to a higher low what this would do is create lower lows in the stock RSI, which would be bullish. And if we did get a bit more of a rollover in price, we'd have these higher lows still. So you'd have lower lows in the stock RSI, higher lows in price, major bullish divergence. If we get the ABC, then that would be the ultimate go signal for me. So at the moment, it's all about holding this previous high right here. You can see that we're sort of hovering around the March 2024 highs that we're holding as support. If these highs hold and we just consolidate for a while, then that might be the sign. And we don't actually then get the rollover. We could just hover about and then go for the larger breakup. But I wouldn't be looking to offload any sort of Telcoin until we're at actually levels in the stock RSI like we was in 2021 of around 99 to 100. We haven't actually seen any of those sort of impulsive moves up to these levels in the stock RSI for Telcoin since 2021. So I feel like that blow off top in the stock RSI is actually missing somewhere along the line down here. And this is potentially where we're getting the build up to that. And again, price action is obviously acting very similar to mark that move as well. So do keep your eyes on the stock RSI. We could see a nice sort of relief rally up here over the short term, but it's all about taking out this 0.012. high. Okay, if we take out this high in the next couple of months, I think the move to the all-time high and then back to up to that 20-cent target is a massive potential. And you know, if we do actually see that 20 cents for Telcoin from sort of current prices pushing up to that level, you're still looking at a rough sort of 44x move here for Telcoin. I hope you've enjoyed the content, guys. From Chart Nerd TA, take care, peace out.